Alright, what's going on, guys? So it's been a few weeks since we got the Elden Ring DLC 01, or the Colosseum update as it's called, or as Xbox refers to it as, the Lands Between DLC, for Elden Ring, and it's no secret that this was a PvP-centric update, and pretty much all of the updates in the last 6 months have been as well. And the reality of it is that PvP is in the best place that it ever has been since Elden Ring launched. FromSoftware has been absolutely killing it, taking all of our feedback and implementing it almost to a T, giving the fans some of the best support they've ever put out, and they deserve full credit for that. However, there is kind of a stark reality that there are some fatal flaws within the system itself that, regardless of how grateful we feel, I do think need to be addressed. And I feel compelled to articulate them. But I gotta preface all this with something. Consider this video a sort of journal note in video format. I'm not expecting FromSoftware to implement the changes I'm gonna propose. Maybe this is something they'll tackle in the first major DLC. However, the problems that I found I cannot get out of my head every single time I play Elden Ring PvP. And I have 3 major points I want to dive into today, starting with the biggest and most apparent issue that's been around since the start of Elden Ring PvP, and that I feel the Colosseums didn't address, and that is ultimately a lack of incentive. One of the things Elden Ring does the best in its exploration and open world is that it rewards absolutely everything you do. If you explore a mysterious new area, uncover the convoluted steps of an NPC questline, or take down an incredibly hard boss, then you are always rewarded for your efforts in a manner that may be equal to or greater than the situation. But the fact of the matter is that it isn't true for PvP. When you win an invasion or a duel, you receive a rune arc, which in theory is a decent item to be rewarded with, but in actuality would be much easier to just obtain by exploration. And it's an item that can't even be used in a PvP scenario. And if you win a match in the Colosseum, you receive nothing. The only semblance of progression for participating in the Colosseums are tiny little ranks that when you're participating in combat you won't even notice. And if you're a good PvP player, you can receive the max rank within a few hours. Now, the reason I think this is such an important point is because this isn't a new concept. The Souls games in the past always had very strong incentives for participation in multiplayer. And of course, the most obvious one were the Covenants. Covenants rewarded new weapons, spells, armors, some of which were the best in the game. Now, yes, you could get Covenant rewards simply by participating in PvE. However, that would take a grueling grind and would be much easier to just do multiplayer, which naturally would push the player to try it out. The absence of Covenants in Elden Ring is felt very strongly, and we could talk about that forever, but if you played the past Souls games, then you get the point. Even if we want to talk about past Colosseums though, Elden Ring's rewards the player the worst out of all of them. The battles of Stoicism in Dark Souls had a universal leaderboard for you to climb the ranks in. You could go to the gazebo and see in real time who was at the top, so there was always a reason to go earn more points. Dark Souls 2 allowed the player to get an entirely new invader glow that could be used across all invasions. Now, Dark Souls 3 had about the same system as Elden Ring, however that game had Covenant, so we can give it the slight edge. So you can see the entire situation around Elden Ring multiplayer is that there's simply no reason to do it. Yes, of course it's fun, but incentive-wise it's a shell of what we had in the past. Now, usually when I bring this up, people will say, but Elden Ring is not a multiplayer game. It's not a live service, so why even care? And my response to that would be that that's simply not true. FromSoftware are treating multiplayer as something that's supposed to be enjoyed along long periods of time, which is why they're updating it. And I simply find an incongruency with their behavior in rolling out patches so often and not adding rewards for participation in the mode that they're holding so high. And I honestly think that is the final puzzle piece that needs to happen. Now, the second main point that I think is almost up there with incentives is that multiplayer in this game does not utilize the game's full potential. But let me start by giving credit where credit's due. We've seen a taste of what could be possible with the Caelid Spirit Summon battles. This mode is absolute chaos and is unlike anything we've ever played before. And it's a perfect example of using one of Elden Ring's new and creative features, Spirit Summons, in a way that makes multiplayer fresh and inspiring. But it's only one of many new things that Elden Ring could have implemented to make it even better. And we have several unused possibilities here. And the obvious standout to me is horseback combat. Torrent introduces a whole new element to the game that makes Elden Ring entirely unique, and I can't help but see such a massive opportunity here that would make multiplayer so much more fun. Imagine if you invaded somebody in the open world and you could chase them down on horseback or have jousting competitions with your friends. I know, of course, there are logistical reasons why they didn't do this, but it would still be possible. Even if we want to talk about the Colosseums, we very well could have had the opportunity to use horseback here, and that would be another level to combat that would come with its own advantages and disadvantages. items. Say for example, Torrent has low health, but would make up for it with speed. You can't use Ashes of War on horseback, but you also unlock a whole new moveset, and they could have even made a horseback only mode, with its own map, where Torrent is invincible. Now yes, they may be pretty cumbersome, but I can't help but see the opportunity here. And aside from Torrent, we also have Great Runes, which open up entirely new build opportunities, and I gotta say I don't understand why we can use Flask of Wondrous Physic in the Colosseums, but not Rune Arcs. Clearly there's no logistical reason of why that wouldn't be possible, and I could go on and on. Another one too, the Colosseum only has one map. Every single Souls game in the past had multiple maps for the Colosseums, all with different topography, and there are so many cool landmarks in Elden Ring that would make amazing PvP maps. For example, the Raya Lucaria Courtyard, Godric's Arena, the Nokrin Plaza, and even on top of some of the bridges in the Weeping Peninsula, with the opportunity to knock players off. Now yes, some of these are already invadable areas, but they would work so much better as controlled maps, and all of those resemble maps that we've had in the past games, so there's no reason it would be impossible. So I can't help but shake the feeling like there's so much unused potential here in Elden Ring that can make multiplayer that much better. But for the final point today, I want to say there's a real feeling of lack of community. Some of y'all might know where I'm heading with this, but there is one long lost tradition that was a pinnacle of the Souls games, and those of course are fight clubs. Fight clubs were a phenomenon that would break out whenever a host of a world would invite 5 other players into their world, where they would gather around an area and watch as 2 of the players fought in a duel. After a player won the duel, another player would hop down into the arena, where they would then challenge the victor, and the host would make up for the defeated player by summoning another spirit who would then join as another spectator. And the challenge was to see how many victories you could go through before you died. There were of course some unspoken rules that everybody naturally adapted to, such as if you attack the host then you get jumped by everybody. And it was a win-win for everybody involved because everybody that was there got additional souls based on defeated players, and items to level up your covenant. You would typically know you found a fight club because the host would mark off the area with prism stones. But man, these were some of the most fun I ever had in the Souls games, and it created such a strong feeling of community. Because if you died in that world and were sent back to your own, you could always put a summon sign down and they would recognize your name. But Elden Ring has made fight clubs impossible. Since Elden Ring only allows you to have 2 red spirits in a world at a time, that means the only spectators are a host and 1 phantom. And instead of feeling like a big community event, it just feels awkward and lonely, and once again a shell of what we once had. But the Colosseums introduced 6-player matches and showed that these could be a possibility once again. They could even still confine these to the Colosseum as long as they made a fight club mode, where players could spectate and take their turns cycling in until they're defeated. Honestly, like the Rune Arcs, I don't know why this isn't a feature. Even if they don't want to make it a new mode in the Colosseums, all they have to do is allow a host to summon up to 4 red phantoms. Again, logistically, I don't know why this is an issue. It's just a tiny little tweak they could make that would give the game so much more charm. And I really hope that this is something that happens in DLC. But those are 3 realistic things that I think, if addressed, could make PvP absolutely perfect in Elden Ring, more so than it already is. And I don't say them to complain or suggest that Elden Ring PvP isn't good, but I say them as an enjoyer that it could be even better. But let me know down in the comments, do you agree with me? Are there other things that you would like to see? Or do you think PvP is perfect as it is? Either way though guys, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you're new around here. And with all that, I'll catch you in the next one.